Oh man, we are in full tennis ball mode over here. I hate it. I hate this part of growing hair back in. I shaved my head because I was in a place a few months ago where I was like, fuck it, I don't care about anything right now. I was not doing well. And I'm doing better now. And once I shaved my head, two things occurred to me. Number one, I feel like I looked older. And I'm okay with my age, but I don't want to look older. And number two, I'm going to have to start looking for a job. I'm going to have to start doing something as I transition out of my dog training business. So I thought having some sort of hairstyle at some point might be a benefit. But that's not what we're talking about today. No. Today we're going to talk about the Doomsday Clock. Yes, something fun and lighthearted. I know, right? So, the Doomsday Clock. So, I believe it's called the Atomic Council. This group of intellectuals, they gather up all the data on the perils of the world, and then every year they release how close we are to midnight. Midnight on the Doomsday Clock being the end of humanity, right? Super fun stuff here. And back in the 1980s, I think we were sitting around 15 minutes to midnight, if I remember correctly. And that was because, things like the United States and Russia were pulling back on nuclear weapons, and things were starting to look positive. We were coming out of the Cold War. Countries were starting to get along. We were seeing countries working together toward common goals for the good of the world. And although the atomic clock, the doomsday clock has its ups and downs, right? This is now the closest we've ever been, 85 seconds to midnight. That's bad news bears, right? What does that mean in reality? I don't know. It's not like a time frame for when it all ends, but they're saying like that's how close we are. If we were 15 minutes to midnight in the 80s, we're this close to the end of humanity. And they lay out their reasons why they think this, right? So I'll paraphrase a few of them, but let's go into some of the reasons why they see things so grim. Number one, all the conflicts around the world, right? Increasing conflicts, Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, right? Lots of real negative conflicts around the world happening right now. So that's scary. The continued proliferation of nuclear weapons, places like North Korea, Iran, right? Places that are still developing nuclear weapons. Again, bad news bears. Climate change. We have failed to do anything on climate change, and feels like half the population would be like, there's no climate change, bro, or climate is like a cycle, man, and it's always changing. Great. So we're only a few months out from the news cycle of forest fires and floods everywhere. So even if, let's say, the climate was circular and it's just changing and it will come back around. Well, right now we're in a shit spot of the climate, that's for sure, right? So even if it's in flux, that doesn't help us. If your house burns down because of a massive forest fire, and I go, yeah, man, but the climate will come back to where it was. That doesn't replace all your stuff, right? So still bad news. The rise in authoritarianism around the world, again, bad news, right? A lot of governments have gone authoritarian and are taking away a lot of rights of people. The rise of nationalism, so governments that are on the me first agenda, right? And we're seeing that with a lot of governments right now that are pulling back. But of course, the administration in the United States pulling back from a lot of agreements that were nationwide, global, not just nationwide, but global, right? Suggesting that they're going to take over other countries, such as the country I live in, Canada, right? They want us to become part of their country, and I don't want to be part of their country. So a lot of these things. Oh, and the last one, which I thought was really interesting, was all of the big tech oligarchs of the world, the tech billionaires, cozying up to politicians, right? Like we saw when this administration was sworn into the White House, we had people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook there. So clearly, they're cozying up to one side of politics. Now, should X, formerly Twitter, and Facebook, should they be places to discuss politics? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely they should. But should those platforms, should the head of those platforms have a leaning towards one side of politics or the other? No. Because if they're doing that, then what? Then what, right? That's not good. These are supposed to be places where we can discuss openly and honestly and freely our opinions. And that's another thing. I don't think you can do that anymore, right? One of the speakers during the broadcast said, without like a shared set of facts, there is no truth, and without truth, there is no cooperation, right? And that's the saddest part of it all. We all seem to be getting our information from different places. I'm old enough to remember what's referred to now as mainstream media. Back in my day, was just media, right? So if you were in Canada and you were watching Global News or CTV News, or you're in the US and you watched ABC or NBC, like you were kind of getting the same news story, right? Like maybe it had a slightly different slant, but you're kind of getting the same news story. So when you go to work on Monday and you're all hanging around the water cooler, you're talking about the same thing, right? You're like, yeah, I saw that too. Crazy, right? Like now we had a shared set of facts to agree on. And then as people, we can agree on how to move forward. But when there's no shared set of facts, what do we do? And one of the big causes they said of this is AI. AI spreads a lot of misinformation, right? It doesn't always get stuff right. It's just summarizing stuff. But where did it get that information from that it's summarizing for you, right? So AI, very terrifying, right? And they talked about how a lot of the major companies developing this have it's a race to get AI, to get the most powerful AI to earn the money, right? But there's no guardrails. They've taken off the safeties in order to get there. So AI is moving too fast. So these are all the reasons they said. And then I'm going to add a few of my own. These are just personal things. Like, 15 years ago, even maybe 10 years ago, you could, on your own as a single human being, get a decent, like an average full-time job, and you could have your own place. It would be meager. It would be a one-bedroom little apartment, but you could afford it. You could have an A to B car, right? A car that just gets you from point A to point B, bit of a jalopy, but gets you around town and maybe to a concert on the weekend, right? You could pay your own groceries and keep groceries in your fridge, right? Put gas in your vehicle. And you could have a little money to go to that concert on the weekend. Now you either need 4 roommates or 5 jobs to afford a place to live. And more of your money right now goes to your living expenses, to rent or a mortgage if you're lucky enough to even have a house, to food, right? To gas. All of these things are more expensive now. All the products we buy are more expensive. So more of your money just goes to that, and less of your money is left over to spend on something you want or even save. Remember saving? So that's a problem. There's an artist I really like named Mark Sabia, and he's got a song called 90s. And there's a lyric in it, and I may be getting it slightly wrong, but the lyric is, I know that the best days ain't behind me, but they might be. And that really resonated with me when I was listening to it, because I thought, number one, it's hopeful, right? I know that the best days ain't behind me, but then it's realistic at the same time, but they might be, right? There's this feeling of like hope that like there's still more for the future, but this like nagging feeling that there's not at the same time. And I don't think there's a better future ahead for me, if I'm being honest. And part of me is okay with that. I'll explain why. I've accomplished everything I ever really wanted to accomplish in my life. That doesn't mean that there's not more I want to do. I mean, I'm only middle-aged. There's lots more I want to do in life, but all the big things, I got married, I had a house, right? I'm living in it now. Had a camper van and got to tour all over the place, like, do road trips in my camper van. I got to be a professional skateboarder. That was my dream as a kid, was to just be a professional skateboarder, and I managed to do that. I've had a lot of cool careers. I was a chef, have my Red Seal here in Canada. I was a race director. a Finnish carpenter. I've done a bunch. I've worn a lot of hats. Speaking of which, I should wear one now with this hair. But I digress. I've done so many of the things that I always dreamed of doing, and I've had lots of good friends and a few really good partners to share my life with. So I can't complain. I have no regrets, and I don't know how many people can say that, but I don't really have any regrets, right? I really have enjoyed my life. I've done pretty much everything I've ever wanted to do my whole life. Like I've followed my heart and my passion. So that's great. I feel sorry for younger people coming up now because I don't feel like your future is anywhere near as bright. And I read 1984 recently, and one of the themes that really stuck with me is he kept asking himself and people, the proles, the proletariat, right? He was asking the proles, hey, do you remember what it was like before this government, before all of this? Was it better then? And people are having trouble remembering, right? Was it better then? But of course it was, right? They all live in dilapidated houses and there's not enough to eat or drink, and even the gin is terrible. The Victory gin is just swill. And I fear that future. I fear a future where I look back and I think it was way better back then. And I don't want anyone to feel this way, but it would be nice to know that anyone else feels this way, that I'm not alone. Well, that's all I have to say about that. Real pick me up here. Thanks, Doomsday Clock. Yeah, I hope for a better future, but maybe there isn't one.